Okay, let's have a chat about my 2006 Kawasaki Brute Force. It's the quad I used to explore the mountains.
Hello everyone. Well, I wanted to do a video on my Brute Force because like the title says, it blew up. Now if you remember that quad, that four-wheeler for you guys back east, I don't know if any of you Americans uh, call them quads or four-wheelers, but we call them quads here. When I lived in Ontario, we always called them four-wheelers. Anyway, you get the idea. So if you remember in the video where I was in the mountains for, I think it was 26 days, and I had just put that quad together, and we took it to the top of a mountain on its maiden voyage, like a 30-kilometer run at around midnight, to test it. And it ran great for that whole trip. I worked on it throughout the trip, and I rode it just about every day. So we put a few kilometers on it, a few miles for sure, and everything was good. We did a few trips into town to get resupplied and everything was great. So I did that trip, and then I came home from that trip for about a week, and then I went back out for another. I think it was not quite 2 weeks. I think it was about 9 or 10 days, and I have that video in the works. It's going to be coming up. I'll show you about that. But that was actually 4 years ago, or almost 4 years ago. So I did that trip, and we drove it for another 9 days straight, and again, it worked awesome. By then, I had all the bugs worked out of it. I just drove it. Everything was good. And then October came, and I did another, I don't know, it was like a 3 or 4 day camping trip, and we rode a few times, and it developed a tick. And I thought, oh, great, here we go, cam chains again. But I had replaced all them. But the Brutes were kind of famous for going through chains when they first came out. I think they had, like Kawasaki had a bad batch of chains or something. So anyways, we did our little camping thing, and it started ticking louder, so I adjusted the valves, and that didn't help it. I took it for a little drive down the river, and it started ticking louder and louder, and I just stopped driving it. I didn't want to hurt the engine anymore. So I took it home. That was October of 2017. I took it home, and I had a quick look at it, and it wasn't anything I could see. So I thought maybe a cam chain stretched or something like that. I didn't know. So in the meantime, I went and bought a side-by-side. I haven't got it going yet either, but I wanted a side-by-side because Chevelle, my dog, it was just getting hard for her to sit on the back of that quad anymore. So I went and bought the side-by-side, and I was going to get going at that, and instead I just ended up pretty much just driving our Jeep most of the time. It worked good for the dog. She had that bad back leg, so it was good. It was a little safer than being out on the side-by-side of the quad. And anyhow, finally, I decided to get at that Brute Force. I wanted to check it out and pull it apart. So we started ripping it down, and I'll show you what we found out.
Well, here it is, the old Brute Force. You got to tear it down quite a bit just to get at the engine, but here we go. Anyway, this thing's it's a built motor. It's got 13 and a half to 1 pistons.
Yeah, these Brute Forces, these Kawasaki Brute Forces, they're a nightmare to work on. Like, they're just not fun. You got to rip the whole side of the machine off to pull out the back spark plug. Like, it's just dumb. But anyway, it's ticking, and I rolled the engine over, and I see the valves are opening up. This thing's got pretty radical cam in it there, so it just holds those valves open a long way. But I got thinking about it. Like, everything looks good. The engine looks spotless. Like, it's only got maybe 600 or 800 kilometers on it since I did the build, and like, it's a built motor. Like, it should be able to take the revs, but what it can't take, and what I forgot about, was this thing has cast iron cylinders, and like, I always let things rev up normally, but we were out camping and clowning around, and it was in October, but it was during the day, and I thought we had it running earlier. I just can't remember now, but I'm thinking it wasn't warmed up enough, and I probably just scored a piston is what I'm probably going to find, because it did run. But I did a compression test, and one side's got 125 and the other one's got 150 or like 147. So yeah, Okay, my phone's screwed up, so I'll have to use this other camera. But I was just saying that it's a 784 big bore. So this is the Kawasaki Brute Force, and it's a 650, but I big bored it to a 784. Most people just big bore the 750s, and they build like 820s and 840s. But this is a 784, so I think it's the 820 Pistons, but with the 650 bottom end with the shorter stroke. So it really rips this thing as it spools up nice and fast, and yeah, it goes good. But not when it's blown up. So yeah, I thought it was a timing chain, but now I'm thinking I'm gonna find a scored cylinder, but we'll see when I tear it down here. Let's see if I can do this here. Okay, where are we here? Where's the camera? Where are you? There you are. Okay. How about like that? So listen to this. Listen. Hear that? That's the noise I'm getting. So it's either a chain tensioner or something. Maybe my tensioner broke, or it is, I guess it could be a lower rod bearing too. But it sounded like it was in the top end. That was hard to tell, but I don't know if you can see that there. So, must be something. It could be, this thing has like 5 timing chains, if you can believe that. It's got 2 going to each head, 1 going to the crank, 1 going to the oil pump, I think. I don't even remember. It's been a while since I pulled this thing apart, but yeah, it's got 5 of them. They're all new though, or they were. But maybe I broke a tensioner, because I know that can be an issue. So maybe we'll look at that. Should be in a lower rod bearing though. Okay, well, we're back. This crappy camera again here. So yeah, we're back a night later. I stayed up late last night and started tearing it down. Man, you don't want to screw up these engines, because what a pile of work to get at them. Anyway, originally looking in here, and there's cam chain tensioner through here, and it sounded like it was making a side to side, like a metallic sound, but I don't know now. I don't think that's it. I think it is. I think it's actually a rod bearing, because when I move this, I'm pretty sure it's a lower rod bearing, but we'll know soon enough. I'm going to tear the cylinder off right now. Stay tuned. Well, the head looks good, not damaged. There's the pistons, or the piston. Now we'll take the cylinder off. Well, she's scuffed up a bit for sure. There's still my crosshatch pattern from when I owned it. But that's not our problem. Survey says it's the rod bearing. It's done. Everything I own now is done, it seems. Boy, those are nice fancy pistons though. Okay, well, we'll try and pull that rod out. Camera's kind of working now. Can you see in there? There we go. Oh man. Okay. Pull her apart some more. Okay, well that's that. So drink our problems away here. Yeah, so I could have just rebuilt that thing. I could have taken it apart and put some new crank bearings in. I don't know if the rods were damaged. I didn't get that far. I started thinking back to 2017 when we were driving that thing out in the mountains, and I was saying, where's my 300 Honda? I'm just going slow. I'm just exploring, and it's rugged country here, so you're not always going 100 miles an hour, And that thing was built for that type of riding, to give her. And I just wasn't into it. And with Chevelle, it's not happening, right? So I could have just rebuilt it, put it all back together, and sold it that way. But I just decided to list it just to see if anybody'd be interested. And, well, the guy called almost right away. So I made a deal with him, and I just sold it to him. He got a really good deal on it. It had everything. It just needed to be it just needed the rod bearings and to be, I guess, rebuilt again. So that's probably the first engine I've ever had to take apart that I've ever put together, and I've put a lot of engines together. But the Brutes were very famous for those rod bearings. Like, this is it's kind of out of my control. There's not much I could do about it. I know some people are taking Toyota truck bearings or car engine bearings, and they're machining the crank, and they're putting it's like a better, thicker bearing, and so there obviously was a problem with that. The other thing is, like, I'm exploring, so I don't want to be out in the mountains and be breaking down, obviously. But I mean, that Brute Force had two pistons, two of everything, two carburetors, or one carburetor, two, I guess they're kind of bolted together. 5 cam chains, all these things. So I'm gonna put the side by side together. It's it's a single cylinder, and I'm thinking that's just gonna be a lot better for us. I had a side by side before. I really enjoyed it. It needed a lot of fixing and a lot of little mods because it was a Chinese side by side. But I took that thing all over. It's been on a lot of mountain peaks around here. So anyways, the Brute Force is gone, and yeah, we'll see. I've got, I had another quad given to me, and actually, the engine is right here, or parts of it. So, this is what I'm into these days. Simple, Oops, there goes parts. 2 valves. That Brute Force had 8 valves. These are super easy, simple engines to work on, really fun to work on compared to a Brute Force. They're good and reliable for the most part. This one failed because somebody put the oil filter in backwards. I'll do a video on that. It used to be a very common mistake. I built so many of these Honda. This is a Honda 400. So many of these engines died because somebody put the filter in backwards. So I'm going to do a little video on that later. But yeah, it's just more my thing to be exploring, and so that's what we're going to do. We're going to build a vehicle, and I'll be doing videos on that. The next video that I'm going to do, if you can see, is on my little McCulloch. It's a little, it's either 35 or 38 cc's. I'm not sure. Just a little tiny engine. And so I'm doing little mods to this thing. These things did not have a good reputation, apparently. This one's a Power Mac 325AV, the AV anti-vibe, with a 60-inch bar. And it needs a coil. I baked the coil. Like I said, I'm doing another video on that. I just wanted to talk about this Brute Force and just kind of give you an idea of what will, I don't have a horse, right? I either hike or I'm into the backcountry on a Jeep or a quad. I like hiking, but not as much as I like riding quads and four-wheelers and that sort of thing. So that's there's going to be a lot more content coming up on our adventures with those things. I like three-wheelers, old Honda trikes, so there'll be videos of that. I have a lot of old videos that I'm going to be posting. I don't know how I'm going to do it, if I'm going to do it like a little video series or just one here and there, but I definitely have piles of old video of our adventures, so lots of cool things that I got to video, like grizzly bears and elk swimming right in front of my boat, things like that, like right in the mountains. So it should be pretty good. But anyway, that's it for this video, and we'll catch you on the next one.